Welcome back to Tell Me More with me, CJ Quarterbaum. Tell Me More exists to bridge the gap in our intergenerational workplace dynamics, build better leaders, and ultimately to prepare for the future. Today, I have the joy of being the joy of being joined by a joy and join sounds so weird in my head just now. Being joined by a good friend of mine, Mike Oakes. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mike, tell the people about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? And what do you do now?
Hi everyone. My name is Mike. I'm a physical therapist. I grew up in Bronx, New York, pretty much my whole life. And kind of skipping all of the boring details, I graduated from my doctorate program in physical therapy back in 2015. And ever since then, I've been a part of just building physical therapy clinics from the ground up. And I decided last year to do it again. So I took my whole family over to the West Coast in LA, and I opened up my own clinic in West Hollywood. And we just crossed the 7-month mark, and it feels like 10 years. But yeah, that's kind of the short and brief version of who I am and what I do and where I'm at.
That's good, man. Out in LA, you are enjoying that 77 and sunny year-round
Yes,
weather
sir.
while I'm over
So
here dying in New York.
so weather in LA is one of the few things that completely lives up to the hype. It is everything you think it is and better, especially in January and February. Um, what I would do sometimes is I would open my weather app, and I would purposely check the weather in New York,
That's
and it
just
would just
me.
bring a small smile to my face at the start of my day.
That's just me. If you've never been to LA, he's not lying. The last time I was there was a couple of months before you moved, a couple of weeks before you moved.
Okay.
You moved in like January, right? Something like that?
February of last year.
February, yeah. So I was there in January and it was beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
nothing
Yes.
like we experience in New York.
Yes.
Uh, Tell the people about you've got some entrepreneurship going on, but you're in the
Yep.
health space. Tell people about your philosophy and approach to health.
Yeah. So I think about what I do as bridging the gap between a lot of Western medicine and Eastern medicine practices. Um, I think the way medicine is approached, especially in the West, is really fragmented in its philosophy. And so it's not uncommon for people to have a doctor for their hip, a doctor for their knee, a doctor for their gut, a doctor for their brain, you know? And this approach is really good for acute intervention. So, like if you need surgery or if you have an infection or things like this, the way our current healthcare system is set up is very effective in helping people with more acute conditions. However, where our current system falls way short is it's applying the same acute interventions and acute philosophies to everybody else who don't necessarily have acute issues. And so as a result, you see an acceleration towards chronic dyshealth in some shape or form. And so with my practice, I address the way I look at health is everyone is on a spectrum. On one side, you have people who are in a lot of pain, whether it's acute or chronic. And then you have people all the way on the other side of the spectrum. These are people who everything is great, but they're really invested in wanting to perform better or gain more mental acuity or sleep better and optimize their health. And so when we view health as being more of a continuum, we can then start to apply different strategies to individuals based on where they're at in their health journey.
So you're bridging the gap between Eastern and Western medicine. And Western medicine, as you describe it, is kind of focused on individual areas. So Eastern medicine's a bit more holistic.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to summarize it.
Mm. How does that show up?
Yeah, I think speaking from just like a high level at this right now, um, the way it shows up in my practice is I think Eastern medicine does a great job at understanding how the human body and health is integrated and functions as a holistic system, right? So we have several different systems in the body. Each system has a unique responsibility, but also each system works together and communicates with the other systems. And so, from an Eastern medicine perspective, true health is achieved when balance is achieved among the systems of the body. I think where Western medicine does a really great job is with its research and its data and the scientific method. And so for me, I take a holistic approach by analyzing and assessing the major systems of the body. And I back that up with a very comprehensive evaluation where we get objective data on how your overall health is doing. And based on what the data says, as well as my client's subjective experience with their pain, I create a care plan for them.
Mm. So you're about 10 years in the game now.
Yeah.
What are some things you've noticed over your career in terms of just overall conditions that people find themselves in?
Wow. Um, yeah, I've treated a ton of different conditions and injuries. There are several that come up in terms of frequency and patterning. I think number one, and I think this is very obvious, is the rise of just like office place injuries, right? Like just sitting down all day long. Um, so I believe that the human body was designed to live in a particular way. And sitting from 9 to 5 in an uncomfortable chair in front of a computer screen is not how we were designed to be. And so, unsurprisingly, for people who find themselves in an office job, there's some occupational hazards, right? So tons of people have tons of neck pain and low back pain and sciatica and things like this, which I believe all stem from sitting down too much and the resultant poor posture. So that's kind of like one bucket. The second thing is the rise of stress related dishealth, stress, anxiety, and like the inability to cope in healthy ways has been something that I have been forced to address and learn more about. And I find that as health moves forward, this is something I see as being a bigger and bigger issue as we move into the future. But almost invariably, everyone that I see, their stress levels are through the roof. And when I ask them how they cope, um, let's just say they don't have many healthy strategies for dealing with it well. So
So as a
those two stand out to me. Yeah.
as a physical therapist, how do you treat that?
Yeah. So when we take a look at stress, I view it as think of it as like a input and output, right? So input, think of all of the things that enter your system that your body could perceive as a threat or a stressor, right? So this could be your nutrition, This could be poor movement strategies. This could be poor sleep. This could be a boss yelling at you. This could be a really bad breakup and you just don't know how to get through it, right? Now, for each of these inputs, there's a slightly different approach, right? So if somebody is dealing with a lot of just mental and emotional stress, I believe that just talking to people, showing up, being present, and asking the right questions, and creating space simply to listen is as much part of the healing process as any other thing that I do in the clinic. And I don't want to come off like so like woo woo, like hippie crunching granola. But this is true. I mean, I think my relationship that I've built with my clients is a unique one in that uh, what other relationships can you think of? Do you on day one start talking about, man, I'm really depressed, or I'm the CEO of this big company and I feel like a failure still, or these kind of things, and simply asking questions of like, hey, who helps you, or um, how are you doing? These are questions that most people don't get asked on a daily basis. So from day one, it's already a very different relationship and a unique relationship that I'm forming. So anyways, that's all of the inputs. And then the outputs, I view this as things that build up your resiliency to the stress. Like in a perfect ideal world, CJ, we would just live on a farm somewhere, grow our own produce, not have to worry about money or
It's the
like
millennial
going to
dream.
work. Yeah, yeah, right, right. But for many of us, for the vast majority of us, that's not realistic, right? Like I can't tell my clients to like, hey, go buy an island and just live there from now on. So the other part of the equation is how do we build up resiliency for the stressors that will inevitably come our way? And things like breath work and breathing, praying and meditation. I talk about praying a lot with my clients, right? Here in LA, it's like the topic of prayer becomes uh, like talking about meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation is really big in LA, but you kind of get my point. Yeah. So breath work, prayer, meditation, journaling, also movement. Movement is huge, right? And I'm talking about not only exercise, but non-exercise movement, right? I encourage so many people to, hey, in the middle of your day or at some point in your day, just step outside and just walk, right? Don't walk with a purpose. Don't walk to like get something done. Just take a stroll around your block. Things like this, you know? All of these things help build up your system. It introduces a little bit of rest into the body. And just that little bit of rest can be enough to break the cycle of constant stress and fight or flight in the nervous system, at least enough to get back at it for another day, you know?
So I'm actually really surprised by this because I would have expected, I guess I expected as a physical therapist that all of your practice was in movement and exercise and nutrition and
Yeah,
functionality in those ways. But to hear that a lot of your conversations are around kind of the mental and emotional issues that people
yep,
are facing is really, it's really fascinating because I like when you were in PT school, did they train you for this? To expect
absolutely
this?
not. Absolutely not. And that's part of the problem, CJ. I think um, I went to grad school for 3 years. I got my doctorate in physical therapy. I did really well in my program, and at the end of it all, I got a fancy degree. Basically, I graduated knowing how not to kill somebody, and that was it. That was that. I paid all of that money, and I did all of the work, and I graduated with how not to hurt someone or make them worse, right? Which is really important, right? Like, I don't want anyone to die on my treatment table or get worse because of me. But, um, a lot of my education and a lot of my approach came from outside study, lots of research, a lot of courses, a lot of trial and error. And a little bit about that particular journey. I was about 2 years into being a licensed physical therapist. And, I graduated thinking I was the best, and I was going to save the world. And then about 2 years in, I realized, oh my goodness, I am missing such a big part of the puzzle because I was helping people with their knee pain. I was helping people with their back pain, but they were just as stressed, just as anxious. Uh, they were struggling with sleep. They had gained a ton of weight. But because I was just trained in the muscular system, I would like check a box and say, oh, I'm sorry for all the other things that you're going through in terms of your health. I can't help you. Go see another person. And then it was like a come to Jesus moment where I realized, oh man, I'm part of the problem. I am just treating one part of this person, right? And in many ways, it's unfair to the person that you're taking care of because they experience the totality of their dishealth every single day. But for me, I was trained, oh, well, their muscular system is just fine. They should see someone else. And guess what? That somebody else will just check off another box and say, well, my job is done. I got paid. This person is fine. Go see somebody else. And this is where people who need a more holistic approach just get stuck in this endless cycle of seeing specialist after specialist, many of whom are just giving them prescription drug after prescription drug. And then guess what? With enough time, because the root causes of their dishealth are not being addressed, these issues will get worse over time. And then all of a sudden, that chronic pain person will now have an acute injury. And then all of a sudden, our healthcare knows what to do. America is excellent at slicing someone open, replacing a joint, giving you meds to get rid of your pain, and then send you off. We're really good at that. And don't get me wrong, there are scenarios where this is a totally necessary and good thing. If I have cancer of any kind, I want to see a specialist. But for all of the steps that led up to me developing cancer, our current system has no answer. So they just keep getting passed around. And so to answer your question, I realized that I was not helping people in the way that I want to, at the depth that I wanted to. And so I had to learn all of these things. And thankfully, in my journey, I have been pointed to the right resources. I have met so many amazing practitioners. I've had amazing mentors who have challenged me and pushed me and helped me get to where I'm at today.
Man, that's so amazing. And you're like, I think to sum it up, like our healthcare system is broken. It is so broken.
If you want a
And
$1 billion idea, solve our healthcare crisis. You will be the biggest entrepreneur of this century.
and then you can buy the island and have the farm and never have to stress out.
There you go.
Yeah, like even looking at a lot of the medical research that is coming out, and I spend a lot of my time like reading and in the nutrition fitness space,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see these studies coming in these prestigious journals, and you'll go, I don't think that's right, but who am I, right? I'm a podcaster, but then you kind of follow the money, and it's like, oh, this was funded by this lobby to produce this answer, and in a case of someone like Ansel Keys with the 7-country study, it sets 50 years of nutrition guidance, and we are sicker and in worse shape than we've ever been in human history.
Absolutely. And so one of the marks against Eastern medicine practices, typically presented by people who are in the West or have more of a conventional medicine mindset, is where's your evidence? Where's the research? But the elephant in the room is, hey, the research that you're standing on isn't that great either. And then there are several different types of research and evidence, and one of those sources is observation. I think Eastern medicine practitioners, over the course of centuries, have done a much better job of taking a bigger picture lens to health than we currently have in America. I think America has taken the opposite approach, where everything is has a reductionist approach, where we keep breaking down something in the hopes of learning more. But the problem is, sometimes you can break down something so much that you've lost sense of the whole, right? Like, I fundamentally believe that the human person being is more than the sum of its parts, which flies in the face of the reductionist approach to medicine, right? A reductionist approach says, okay, let's take a human being, let's break them down into all of their constituent parts. So theoretically, if we reverse engineer it, we should get a human being. But that is fundamentally not what I believe in. I believe that if you break down the human being to all its fundamental parts, and then you try to put the person back together again, you've missed something, right? And then we can talk about like the spiritual component, all that stuff. But I think the reductionist approach can be helpful in some cases, but I mean, the statistics are there. Like, this approach isn't getting people healthy, right? It's getting them like just out of pain enough to keep going, but never actually out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look at the projection, it's only getting worse. By 2050, I think 75% of people in America will be overweight or obese. 66% will be type 2 diabetic, high blood pressure, cancers. Everything by 2050 is essentially projected to double, if not triple.
The fact
I'm
is, we are.
curious.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
no, no,
I'm
go.
very passionate about this stuff. The fact is, um, it's very clear, just off of those statistics that you provided, we are not living the way we were intended to live. And just like when you use something in a way it was not intended for it to be used, like, it will break down. And so it's writ large. Just look everywhere, right? And the fact of the matter is, even when you do everything the right way, you exercise, you eat whole foods, all that stuff, it's still an uphill climb. Because guess what? Like, let's take a produce. A tomato today, grown in 2025, if we had the ability to compare the nutrient density of the tomato from today from 100 years ago, CJ, it's like gonna be totally different,
Two
bereft of
different worlds.
soul. Yet, exactly. And that's assuming you're getting everything right. It's still an uphill battle, you know? And so I know I'm painting a very bleak picture, but I try to convince people, like, hey, we have to start taking our health seriously, because if you don't, like, everything is set up against you. Like, I'm sorry to break it to people, but the default position of the human body is deterioration. Like, we are wasting away. Every day we are alive, we are dying. Right? And so until I don't know, AI takes over and someone invents like a pill that makes us live forever. Until that happens, I feel like it's one of our major responsibilities to ourselves and the people around us to do everything we can to slow down that speed, to age well, and to mitigate all of this health that's around us, you know?
So, on a personal level, what do you do? What are some of your kind of health protocols? And what are some lines, like hard lines for you, that you just don't cross? Like, I gave up fried food 22 years ago. People make fun of me for it all the time. And they're like, "You're not gonna have a French fry?" I'm like, no, it's been 22 years. Why am I having a French fry at this point in my life? But what are some of your health protocols on the positive side? And then where are some of your just hard stops?
That's a great question. I'll preface my answer by saying um, I have a 2-year-old daughter, my first kid, that I
Yes.
love. She is amazing. But that is a big change in how I live my life. And then number two, I just opened a business not too long ago, which in many ways is like my second child. So I feel like I have two kids right now. Um, so I'll be honest. I mean, the way I take care of my health these days, I wish there are certain things that I wish I had more bandwidth for. And I know that when this season passes, I'll get back to doing things the way I want to. But when I'm really busy, like this season, uh, my mindset is what are the low hanging fruits that I can be employing on a consistent week by week basis that will maximize my health returns. And so, what I'm going to share is not fancy and it's not groundbreaking, but they work. They're kind of tried and true. My day starts at 5 a.m. every morning, and I drink a huge glass of water, room temp, and then I use the gym. I use the gym for about an hour, 3 to 4 times a week, depending on how good I feel. What I do in the gym is not complicated. I choose a couple of body parts. I do a few movements per body part. I push myself sufficiently. And again, I do that 3 to 4 times a week. And then I spend time with my daughter, which I think is also really good for my health.
Yes,
And
it is.
then, yeah. And then in terms of exercise on a weekly basis, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm thankful that I don't sit at an office desk all day long. I'm fairly active with my clients as a physical therapist. Oh, and I still try to play basketball once a week. So I get my cardio in, you know?
Yes.
In terms of movement and exercise, that's about it on a weekly basis. And then in terms of nutrition, I really try to keep uh, like a whole foods diet as best as I can. Um, and nothing complicated. Basically, if it grows in nature, eat more of it. That's basically the rule of thumb. I try to keep that to about an 80-20. You know, so I will have an Oreo here and there, like, you know, I'm just being honest. Um, and yeah, this feels like really uh, manageable for me. And the last thing is I do whatever I can to protect my sleep. Um, I really try to. I'm in bed usually around 9 p.m. and yeah, that gives me about 8 hours. I use an
It's
Aura
a
Ring
lot
to
easier
track.
to do on the West Coast when NBA games are over by 9.
Oh my gosh, dude! Games start at like 3:30. I'm like, great.
I lived on the West Coast for a year and I would wake up
Yeah.
on a Sunday morning and I'm like, oh, it's 10 a.m. and there's football on already? This is great. And it's done by 4. Ah, yeah.
CJ, come over to the West Side anytime. Anytime,
Listen,
brother.
I tell my wife a lot. My wife and I have this argument. We've been having it for 10 years now. All expenses paid trip. You can go wherever you want. Where are you going? And my answer is always LA. I'm like, if it's like a week, like I want to go to LA. I'm familiar. There's enough there. I'm not gonna get bored. You get
Yeah.
mountains, you get beach, perfect weather, and she wants to take my head off every time.
Just come visit once, you know? I think we can convince her.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, so what are some of your no-goes?
yeah. Um, uh, I hope this answers the question. This is something I struggle with. It should be a no-go, but it's honestly really hard for me. Um, it's Sabbathing. Um,
Mm,
just taking one day fully off and resting. And to me, it's much less about doing nothing and more trusting that um, I can rest and the world is not going to collapse. My business is not going to
yeah.
burn up. and trusting that rest is part of the work. Um, I am somebody who sometimes can't help himself. My mindset sometimes is, man, like if I can just get this done, it'll make everything easier or faster. Um, and it's something that should be a no-go, like just a line in the sand, a hard no. I will not do work, uh, and I will rest and Sabbath. But that's something I'm trying to get better at. Um, but yeah, I wish I could be better.
I think rest is for people wired like us, wired to work. Rest is one of the most difficult disciplines to have. And then you've got a small child. There is no such thing as rest. But resting, at least from the work it's still hard because it's really hard to turn your brain off.
Yeah.
And I think what's hard, if we're talking like a Western perspective mindset, the 40-hour 5-day work week was made up, like literally just made up. But so often the work we do now goes well beyond 40 hours. I
Yeah.
am coaching people all the time who routinely put in 70, 80-hour weeks. So if this is your working life, where do you find the rest? Where do you find that moment to give your body that resetting, that healing that it needs?
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to reiterate the trust part, right? Because there is a way to rest, but you're not resting. Your mind is still racing. Your brain is still thinking about work, even though you're not doing work, right? To me, that is not real rest, right? And a lot of that is a mindset thing. It's not just physically don't do anything. It's for me personally is, where do I place my trust? you know and for many people who trust in the work of their hands and their industriousness, things like this, then taking time off is the worst thing, and like they feel a lot of guilt, right? Oh my god, or scared that someone's going to overtake them. So reiterating that, like, trust that things are going to be okay, and really speaking that into existence over my life is something that helps, like, calm me down. Number two, I would say, is this is going to come off really cheesy, but it's the God's honest truth. Um, so in living in LA, there's a lot of outdoor space. Weather's always really nice. And I'm not rubbing this in your face. Just
It sounds
saying.
like it, but go ahead.
um, and so I take my daughter to the park a lot. And there are moments, CJ, where I just watch her play in the playground, and I'm sitting on a work day on the grass, and I just watch. And I could be by myself, I could be with my wife. And like there is like a glimpse of, like, oh, this is as good as my life is gonna get. Like there's a sweet passing moment of, like, this is life, like this is it. And I feel like it's so fleeting. It's like the harder I try to, like, grab onto it, the, like, slipperier it gets. But those are moments that I really try to be aware of and savor. And those moments kind of zoom me out and make me realize what the important things in life really are. Um, yeah, that helps a lot. And then last thing, just throughout the day, um, I I just, like, slow my breath. Um, whenever I get really overwhelmed or stressed, I will take 5 breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. I will hold my breath at the end of my exhale for 5 seconds, and then I will repeat the process 5 times. And I can be doing this as I am working. I can do this when or when someone's talking to me. It's something that I find myself doing throughout the day, and it really, really helps.
It's really good. I see. I love in this conversation the holistic perspective that you are bringing. Like it's, yeah, I got to eat right, got to exercise and make sure I go to the gym and I'm getting my mobility work in. But also, what's happening in my mind space, in my heart space? Where, like, ultimately, like, where am I putting all of my hope? Is it in my work? Is it in my ability to provide or be, insert whatever thing I think I need to be? And then taking the time to breathe. I think we live, like, living in New York and you living in LA, we live in these kind of fast paced places
Oh yeah.
that it's very easy to move without breathing. Before we go, the focus of this week is Gen Z. So I want to hit on them a little bit.
Okay.
Gen Z is, because I think you're kind of speaking to this perfectly, right? Gen Z is the loneliest, most isolated. They are on pace to be the unhealthiest generation. When you deal with Gen Z patients or clients, are there any patterns you're seeing among them that maybe feel unique?
Yeah. Um, I find that more so than um, other other clients I know of other generations, I find that my Gen Z clients, my Gen Zers, struggle the most with managing and coping with their anxiety. So many of my younger clients really struggle with not knowing how to quiet their mind and how to regulate their systems. They are always on. And even when they're off, they're thinking about stuff, so they're not actually off. And so, from like the downstream effects of that, a lot of them don't know how to breathe properly. They tend to hyperventilate. Even at rest, they don't know it, but a lot of them are taking short, rapid, shallow breaths. And I can give a whole talk on just like the physiology of why that's not good, but you have to take my word for it. When you breathe this way, it creates a positive feedback loop where the brain believes that it's under stress. It increases the breathing rate. The increased breathing rate will now inform the brain that there is a real threat. And then this is actually one of the ways a panic attack happens. And then before you know it, you're not breathing anymore, and then you pass out. So, anyways, many of them don't know how to breathe well. Number two, many of them don't sleep well. And I'm talking both the quantity of sleep and also the quality of their sleep. They are going to sleep typically, much later at night. They are, some of them, it takes 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour to fall asleep. Um, Almost all of the Gen Zers that I know are watching something on their phone to fall asleep, which I'm sure is probably the worst way to fall asleep. Many of
I have my
them,
own method. I'll ask you
what's
about
that?
it after. It might not be
Okay,
good, but I'll ask you. I'll ask you. Now I'll share it for the people so they know. But keep going.
sure. Um, Many of them wake up multiple times throughout the day, throughout the night, with racing thoughts. They can't go back to sleep. So sleep is often a struggle for the Gen Zers that I know. Um, Also, from a personality standpoint, I find that Gen Zers are actually really curious. And so they will oftentimes be asking me a ton of questions about, oh, so what does this mean? Or can you explain this again? Or why should I be doing this? Which is a great thing. And I think one of the hallmarks of the Gen Z era, if you will, is just an unprecedented access to information. Information about everything and anything is there, right? But what I find is it's not for a lack of information or knowing what to do, it's the doing, right? Like one of the questions I ask a lot of my clients at the end of our conversation is, Okay, I want you to think about the healthiest version of yourself. Can you paint me a picture of what that person, that version of yourself, what they're doing? And all the time, they will tell me they're exercising, they're eating well, they're not on their phone, they're in loving community, all this kind of stuff. They know what to do. So my next question is, why aren't you doing it? And then, all this stuff comes out. And this is going back to our conversation about, you know, mindsets and emotional blocks and things like this. Health goes much deeper. Um, does that answer your question?
No, yeah, that's really good. I just so much of what you described, the anxiety, the trouble sleeping, the ruminating throughout the day, the unhealthy habits, these are things, including the curiosity, that have become these kind of deep markers of Gen Z. So I'm going to ask you one final question, but before I do, I'm going to tell you my little sleep routine because my wife
Okay,
laughs at me all the time.
hit me.
I get in bed and I read my Kindle Paperwhite. So it's not the regular one with that big backlight. It's the Paperwhite.
Okay, yeah.
I read about 3 pages and then I pass out. That's not as bad as being on your phone, right?
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's totally Mike approved.
All right. I think I've trained myself to only fall asleep with the Kindle because without it, I'll lay there for like 15, 20 minutes before I fall asleep. But the moment I crack open that book, 3 pages and I'm out.
What I'm curious, what's loaded up on your Kindle right now?
Right now is this novel by Terry McMillan called It's Not All Downhill from Here. It's about an older Black woman who loses her husband kind of suddenly and is now trying to navigate her world with her daughter and her granddaughters and her friends, and everyone's getting older. And it turns out that her husband had a 25-year-old son that was from before her that she didn't know about. And so he pops
What?
up at the funeral and is like, "Hey, he was my dad." And so it's really interesting, but I'm only reading 3 pages at a time. So ask me in a couple of months and I'll tell you how it ends.
Okay, okay, we'll do for sure.
Yeah. So Mike, thank you for joining me. Before we go, I like to ask, and we'll because my focus this week is Gen Z, we'll do Gen Z focused on this one. What are 3 tips that you would give to a Gen Zer on improving their health, their overall health?
Okay, and I'm these are not in ranked order. These are the things that are just popping up in my brain. The first one is, and I don't mean to come across as like the old parent in the room, but really just like put your phone down more often. Like the the number of hours, the amount of time Gen Z spends on their phone, I'm sure they know this. It is altering the chemistry and the wiring of their brains. This is a two-way street. It's not only that human beings are engaging with technology, technology is affecting and changing us as well. And so having a more measured, intentional approach to your electronic usage, I think will be really, really helpful. Number two, I would say um, when you implement any kind of health routine, um, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to do a million and one things or everything that you see on TikTok all at once. Just focus on a few habits and practice them and like implement them in your life in a consistent way. And if you slip up, or if you don't follow through one day, like don't beat yourself up. It's okay, right? Um, I think Gen Zers that I know tend to be extremely hard on themselves, and um, when they if they can't do it right, they're not going to do it at all. That kind of mindset, or why even bother? But that's the wrong mindset I think to have. And then I guess the last thing, so we have less screen time, be more kind to yourself, and I guess the last one is find a really good community, like preferably an in-person community.
Yes.
as awesome as a Twitch stream is great. I think it's a it pales into comparison with just human interaction. So like go outside in the sun, meet someone, talk to them face to face, maybe even give them a hug if that's what Gen Zers do. But I think those things are like the first things that come to my mind.
That's good. That's really good. Get off the phone. You don't have to be perfect, and find your people.
Yeah.
Mike, tell the people where they can find you and how they can keep up with your work.
Sure. If you're in the LA area and you need a physical therapist, or you're interested in coming in for an evaluation, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at motion.la. Motion is spelled M-Ocean. And just as a brief aside, motion is actually an acronym for the 6 systems that I treat. But anyways,
What are they?
So the 6 systems are: number 1, the muscular system; O, the organ system; C, the circulatory system; E, emotions; A, articular; and N, the nervous system. When these 6 systems are balanced, real health can be achieved.
What's articular? The articular system.
The articular system, think of your joints, your ligaments, your tendons, these kind of things.
Dope. Dr. Mike, thank you for joining us today on this episode of Tell Me More. And thank you for tuning in yet again. Please drop in the comments, what are you going to do to improve your health and wellness this week? Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do have to get started. And tune in next time as I ask you to tell me more.